Hello, everybody. I'm Zenith, and welcome back to Diving Into DuckTales, where Kat Macberrie, Doug Macberrie, and I dive into the latest DuckTales 2017 episodes and give us our opinions on how this show is doing. Now, I can't even call it DuckTales 2017 anymore because now it's 2018, and we're still on the first season, which is the weirdest thing ever, and I still don't understand why they broke up the seasons the way they did. I mean, I understand that they wanted to get out the new Steven Universe episodes, and they really wanted to get like the ending of Adventure Time and stuff like that, so they wanted to get that out of the way. But if they were going to do that, I would kind of actually prefer if they did this before they aired DuckTales and waited until DuckTales was a little bit more completed. But yeah, it's been a while. It has been a while since we sat down and talked about DuckTales. The last one was around Christmas time, so it's been 6 months, and 6 months is a long time on the internet today. But we're gonna discuss it. We're gonna get back into the DuckTales groove. With us, as always, is my good friend Kat Macberrie. How's it going, Kat?
DuckTales is back! Woo! I am so happy. Like, I've been waiting for this forever. And it's like, yeah, I know it's only 6 months, but it's forever.
Well, the biggest problem is we didn't have any news since that last Christmas episode, since the mountain of the impassable summit of Mount Everest. Ever since that episode, we had no news, and I was searching the internet like every single day, or at least once a week, trying to figure out, because I know people were asking me when I was going to talk about the new episode. I'm like, I don't even know when there's going to be a new episode because we didn't get any new thing other than, oh, we're making them. It's just we're going to be doing something awesome, and it's going to take a while. Well, I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know what that means. It doesn't tell me anything. So I didn't have anything to tell anyone for the longest time. In fact, it felt like it disappeared off the face of the earth, because after a while, I think it was like a month or so ago before we got any news, and I was asking myself, like, I made a post on Facebook saying, so DuckTales 2017, is that still going on? Like, is that a thing? But anyway, Doug is joining us for the first time this episode. Doug is our newest co-host on the Disney Debate, and he's also going to be joining us on our DuckTales podcast. Doug, how's it going?
It's going well. I'm really happy to be part of this.
Since this is your first time here, why don't you give a just kind of a small rundown of your thoughts of the first half. I guess you could say the first half of the season, because they're still calling this season 1. And we got 11 episodes, which is half of what they promised for the first season. So what are your brief thoughts on the first half of season 1? And then we can go to Kat to reiterate some of her thoughts, and then I'll talk a little bit about some of my thoughts, because it's been a while. I've had a chance to mull things over, and I think this is a good time to give a second opinion on the first half.
So yeah, I've definitely been enjoying this. I've been with you guys since actually before I started on the show watching it. I know around the time that the two-part pilot came out, we started rewatching the old 1980s DuckTales, and then watching the new stuff. It's like, wow, this is actually a lot better than the 80s DuckTales, just because I think they actually make the triplets have more personality of their own versus all kind of being the same, and they have slightly different voices. I like that we have this kind of overarching storyline going on, especially with today's episode with the mystery of Della Duck. Yeah, I mean, I just, in general, I've really been enjoying this. Kind of along the lines of what Zen was saying. Yeah, like I'd been combing, the internet a few, months ago after, Impossible Summit of Mount Everest aired, like looking for new episodes to show up. And it's like, all I'm hearing about is that they're going to be airing DuckTales in Malaysia in January, and then there's like nothing until I think last month they finally put out some titles. And what's even weirder is that, DuckTales 2017, it started out on Disney XD, and now they're starting to air it on the Disney Channel instead, which is weird. But they did kind of have a nice promotional gimmick, which is still going on. They are doing DuckTales Live Treasure Hunt on the Disney Now app. So it's like when the episodes air on Disney Channel, right after that, you can like actually start hunting for items that were in that episode, and it's like you're actually part of a team. So it's like Team Webby, Team Louie, Team Huey, Team Dewey. I'm Team Louie, and yeah, I've really been enjoying that. There's supposed to be some prize, but I haven't found out what it is yet. But I'm looking forward to finding out.
You're a total Louie.
So Kat, what do you think now of the first half of season 1, and where do you think, do you think we were too harsh on things, or do you think over time things have started to make a little bit more sense about why they aired things the way they did?
Yeah, I mean, I've rewatched the episodes both on demand and the reruns and everything, and I kind of still feel the same way I did when we first watched them. There's still episodes I think that are totally amazing, and other episodes that I still think are kind of meh. I'm still not crazy about the order in which they aired them, especially given how some of the character actions don't make sense within the timeline that they present it. But for the most part, I still think the first half was amazing. Just what they were able to do, and all the references they made to the past shows that gave a new twist. Like, I still think it's really good, and I was so looking forward to the second half. Like, I was also checking for news, not as frequently, because I knew like this was one of those things where they were probably going to make a big event out of it. And I figured, once Star and versus the Forces of Evil got into their season finale, DuckTales wasn't too far behind. So yeah, and sure enough, so yeah, I've looked ahead at the episodes, and of course we're getting Gizmo Duck, yay, finally. So I'm really looking forward to what else we have in store. Like, I know Darkwing Duck's coming up soon, presumably. I can't say for sure, but the point is we're getting a lot of good stuff, and I'm excited.
Yeah, it's been kind of interesting for me because, like, at the time I was very upset at the way the show was being aired, at the fact that they just left like months in between certain episodes. And I understand that, things are very different these days, but when I was a kid, I believe a season of a show was like 50 episodes or more, and they would have these episodes ready and raring to go, and you wouldn't have these big gaps like you do today. I mean, granted, like, episode production was a lot cheaper back then, as was the animation, but I still kind of feel a little bit salty at the fact that we were just, all of a sudden, like, the episodes were aired out of order. They were put in time slots to air, like, specific holiday episodes for no reason. And then we had no new information on when it would come back. Like, if they had just said, it's going to come back sometime next year, I would have been fine. But we got this vague message about, like, that it's coming back, and I was kind of wondering if they quietly canceled the show due to low ratings. Like, I don't know, like, Disney executives, you never know. I never know what they're going to do.
Yeah, but I mean, the fact that they hyped up DuckTales as much as they did, the fact that they had such faith in it that they actually aired it in its entirety free on YouTube really says something. Like, I knew for a fact that they wouldn't cancel it like that. Not after all the episodes they aired and all the mystery they presented. Like, there would be a fucking riot. Like, because you'd have people yelling like, "Wait, what the fuck? What happened to Della? What about Magico? What's going on? Tell us!" Like, I knew they wouldn't have canceled it. I figured this was going to be sort of like a Steven Universe situation. You know, they'd air a couple episodes over like a period of like a month, and then there'd be like nothing for like several months, which is kind of what ended up happening. But at least in this case, we're getting one episode a week instead of like 5 episodes in a row.
And it's already been renewed for a second season.
I think my biggest problem was just that, you know, I don't like the sporadic airing order. For me, I prefer like the Netflix thing where you can either binge watch the entire season or at least have a decent sized season that starts and concludes. I don't like this new mid-season break thing that a lot of shows are doing, and it kind of aggravates me because you get a cliffhanger right in the middle of a season, and I'm just like, but I want to know. I want to know. Can you shout it?
Yeah, I hear ya. Well, I mean, we got at least 5 episodes over the next 5 weeks coming up, so that should hopefully tide us over in the meantime. I mean, more episodes might pop up by then. We'll have to wait and see. It depends on if it, airs at the appropriate time or not.
So yeah, so that was the previous season. We spent a little bit of time talking about that, but I do think I've warmed up a lot to some of the previous episodes, and I feel like maybe I was a little bit too harsh on a couple of them, but even still, like the stuff about the first half of the season that really stands out is the stuff that we really loved, and we're starting this season off with a bang. Season 1, the second half with the Spear of Selene. The Spear of Selene is a fantastic episode. This is one of my favorite episodes of the show. Kat, do you want to give us a brief summary of the Spear of Selene?
Sure. So the Spear of Selene takes place when the family are flying over the country of Greece. Of course, it's launch pad, so naturally the plane crashes. Although in this instance, it wasn't totally his fault. There was actually some manipulation done by Dewey. And they end up crashing on the island of Ithaquac, aka Ithaca. And it just so happens to be the home of legendary Greek gods and heroes. So, and it turns out that the head honcho Zeus does not like Scrooge, and he has made it his mission to beat him at any game possible. Meanwhile, Dewey and Webby go off on their own little adventure to find out the mystery about what happened to Della. So, yeah, there is a lot to unload in this episode. Like, wow.
There's a lot to unpack. I mean, like most episodes, it has an A plot and a B plot, but both of these plots are really engaging, and actually tells a lot more about these characters. First off, there's the stuff with Zeus and his son Storkules, which is I love this plot point because Storkules is best friends with Donald. He loves Donald. He says Donald is his hero because Donald used to be an adventurer, and we get to learn a little bit more about what Donald was like when he was younger, and like the whole point like of him stopping adventuring was that somebody always gets hurt. And like it really ties in super well to the B plot of them trying to find the Spear of Selene to find Della. And we also learn a lot more about Scrooge in this because Scrooge always beats Zeus at every single thing somehow. They said that Zeus was the god of hospitality, and that the only reason he stopped being the god of hospitality and changed to the god of thunder and started thunderstorms was because Scrooge kept beating him at everything, including Donald. And it's just a hilarious plot point that like Scrooge and Donald are just so good at what they do that they can beat the gods at every single thing. It is quite hilarious.
Yeah, I do like how they run with the whole idea that the Greek gods are basically, you know, immature children who have like very fragile egos and need to prove themselves at all time, even though they're omnipotent. Yeah, because we're introduced to Zeus, and I mean, first off, yeah, Greek gods actually exist in this universe, which I guess we shouldn't, you know, take as a big shock, considering we learned that, you know, Aztecs and Egyptian gods and other mystical beings also exist in this world. But I love that like Zeus not only is real, but he is like sort of a dude bro who, you know, wants to be the best at everything, but is so mad at the fact that this like old mortal duck keeps besting him, and he throws a frickin' tantrum at every turn.
It is amazing, and I love how they portray him in contrast to Storkules, who's a lot like Hercules, in the fact that he's this big heroic dude, and even when he's asked to cheat to win a contest, he refuses to do so. Like, I love what they did with Storkules. Like, he's kind of a parody of the Greek heroes, but in such a way that I find him both enjoyable and funny at the same time, because they make him all big and bold and saying, "Oh, I am the mighty Storkules, but Donald, he is the one who will take the glory today."
I love how he has this huge man crush on Donald. Which it might be legit because this is Greece. They were known for that type of thing. Like seriously, the guy made a full blown like clay statue out of Donald having huge muscles and pecs, and I'm like, whoa, someone's crushing hard.
And they showed some of the previous contests too, like they had sandcastle building, and I think at one point they had I forget the name of the sport, but it's like you have a bunch of balls and you have to get it closer to a ring.
Oh, bocce ball.
Yeah, bocce, and like they use that to decide some contests, and it's so hilarious how they make the Greek gods into like they're supposed to be ancient mythological figures, and yet they have these petty squabbles, which also technically fits in with the Greek pantheon. So it's like it's a great parody in that regard. Doug, what do you think of the A plot?
I like it. I mean, it's like, wow, you freaking gods, particularly Zeus, are pretty petty, aren't you? But yeah, like definitely Storkules was a lot of fun. Just love how every time he tries to show affection to Donald, Donald's either like really apathetic or pissed off. I mean, Zeus is kind of fun, but it's like, wow, you kind of feel a little pity for him at times.
Although to be honest, Scrooge doesn't really help matters. Cause like, yeah, he's right that Zeus shouldn't be such a big baby when it comes to losing, but at the same time, like Scrooge keeps like throwing little snide comments his way that easily set him off. It's like, dude, you're like inviting your own death. Come on. Like, these are the Greek gods. All you have to do is turn your nose at them, and they will fucking turn you to ash without a second thought.
It's kind of funny in that regard, too, because, like, I mean, he is just being Scrooge. This is how he is to, like, pretty much everyone else, like Glomgold included. And the Greek gods don't really seem to care as much because they invited them in. Like, they've been to this place multiple different times. And this used to be their summer home, but the only reason they stopped was because Zeus just got so fed up with it after a point that he's just like, that's it, nobody comes here, nobody's having hospitality, fuck all y'all. And instead of turning them into ash or whatever, instead of giving them contests that they would eventually win, he's just like, no, I'm just going to surround this entire place with thunder and lightning, which doesn't stop them in the slightest.
So it should be noted that that the voice of Zeus is Michael Chiklis. You know, from he's Ben Grimm from the original Fantastic Four. It's weird. It does not sound like him at all. Like it, like if it wasn't pointed out to me, I would have never have known.
So the A plot is really, really good, and there's stuff that it ties into the B plot, but I think we should go over the B plot before we discuss like some of the little things that they do tie into the B plot. So the B plot is Dewey and Webby. They're going into the Greek temple to find the Spear of Selene. Now, the funny part is that the temple is filled with all these artifacts that are all guarded by like so many different creatures and traps. And the first time they're like, oh no, this isn't the Spear of Selene, this is the Sword of Selene. After they navigate this booby trap filled maze with like axes swinging and fire and everything, and they have to go back eventually. And then they go into another temple that's guarded by the Kraken. And they start to fight the Kraken, but they're like, wait a second, this isn't the Spear of Selene, this is the Spear of Poseidon. And so they apologize to the sea monster, and they leave. And I'm just like, first of all, this is the most polite sea monster I've ever met, because he gives them directions to the Spear of Selene.
It was so weird too, because it's like Dewey apologizes to him, and he's like, "I'm sure you're really good looking by monster standards," and he's like, "Yeah, no, not really."
Thanks, though.
I just love that whole exchange. It's like, who knew the Kraken had such good manners? It's like, okay, I guess as long as you're not trying to steal the thing that he's guarding, you know, he's a pretty cool guy.
It's like, maybe we should have tried that sooner. So after the first two times of trying to find it, after they ask for directions, they find the right chamber. But Dewey actually tries to sabotage the whole thing by stopping Webby from going through the door that's, slowly closing. The door that's only opened by, I think it was like a beam of moonlight when they walked in or something like that.
Yeah.
Because there is a writing on the wall that says, anyone who takes the Spear of Selene will incur the wrath of the gods. And they're wondering if that makes Della a bad person. And they start thinking, okay, well, if Della stole this treasure, is she a bad person for taking it? And they start inventing all these things that, maybe she maybe it went like this, maybe she took it for a good reason, like, because the entire time Dewey is struggling with, why is she gone, and is she a bad person for taking the spear? And it really comes to a head where Webby and Dewey start fighting, just to get into the room to find out what's going on, and Dewey just doesn't want to know, because he doesn't want to have a bad impression of who his mother is, and I can totally understand that. Like, I think this entire struggle is very relatable. I love this entire sequence because it gives so much more weight to who Dewey is. Dewey is the kind of person who is really upset and distraught that their mother is gone, and he's the one who's trying to find out, but he doesn't want a bad outcome because he's built up this person for his entire life to be like, this good, really great, adventurous person that he knows nothing about, and I think this is really relatable.
I agree too. Like, it was a bit annoying that he was like doing such huge mental flips in order to like make his mother look good in his mind. But at the same time, it's understandable. Like, he never knew her, and he barely knew anything about her since Donald never talked about her. So the only thing he had to go on was a photo and the fact that, she apparently used to go on adventures with Scrooge. So naturally, it makes sense that he would like build her up to be some sort of hero or whatever. And of course, finding out that she possibly betrayed his uncle, it's kind of like the 5 stages of grief, and the first thing you go through is denial. And he goes through a lot of denial in this. But yeah, like it was heartbreaking at times, especially when he had to admit to himself like that he didn't want to proceed further because he didn't want to know for certain that she was a bad person, and it's like, you poor thing. And I mean, I'm just glad that like Webby understood that, because like I expected her to, sort of be insensitive to that sort of thing, because she loves mystery. She's determined to go on adventures and solve mysteries at all costs. But the fact that she was so understanding about that was heartwarming. So I really did like that.
Yeah, I was expecting her to be more, I was expecting her to be a little bit more gung-ho, especially because she's a lot like their mother. Like, everyone keeps saying Della was this big adventurer and all this, and Webby really fits that mold. Like, she's very much like Della is built up to be, and I figured she would jump right in, but no, she's just like, you know what, it's okay, we don't have to find out this mystery, and I really like that sequence. Before we proceed, Doug, what are your thoughts on this portion of the B-plot?
Yeah, definitely. Especially with certain events that have been going on recently, that felt incredibly relatable because it's like, they say don't meet your heroes, and I mean, sometimes, yeah, it's like you meet your hero and they turn out to be a real dick. So I can completely understand where Dewey would be coming from, not wanting to have to face that his mother could be a bad person. And, it's like, it also sucks because they got so far into finding out. It's like, it would be a real shame if, they had to end it at that point. But it's like, you can't help but understand where Dewey is coming from.
Yeah, something like that is kind of soul shattering. Just this, someone you thought you knew, that you looked up to, that you based your whole identity around, and it turns out that they're just, scum. Like, that's a hard thing to process.
Unfortunately, I think a lot of us can relate to this really well at this point in time. I'm not going to go into details, but there are certain events that, all three of us can understand exactly what this is like, and it kind of does mess you up for a while. So yeah, I completely understand where Dewey is coming from. But we do actually get a little bit of closure in this episode, thank God. Otherwise, I would have been angry because I want to know. Damn it, I want to know.
I would have flipped all the tables.
They actually do go into the room. When Webby says we don't have to do it, Dewey's just like, all right, I'm fine. Let's get this done. And they go in and they meet the goddess Selene, who set everything up like this just so that Della would be intrigued enough to return, because Della loved mysteries and she would have ignored all the warnings from a god and just gone for it. And so she comes up and she says that no, Della was the best. She was an amazing, adventurous person, and she gives them the Spear of Selene. Now, this is confusing at first because they're like, wait a second, no, we're looking for the spear. Selene's just like, you mean the sword of Selene? No, we were just there.
Why does nobody know what I'm talking about?
Well, it turns out that there is no Spear of Selene, unless this is some sort of mistranslation or something that was like worded like a little bit weird on the sign. There is no Spear of Selene. Selene says she's never had a spear, and she gives them a sphere. And so we don't know exactly what that means, but she assures them that Della was a good person and that they'll find Della eventually. But this adds like a new wrinkle into the mystery surrounding everything. It's just like, okay, so was that message a plant by Magica? Like, is this whole quest a plant? Like, is Della really missing? Like, is something else going on? Like, what is really happening here? There's another mystery within the mystery about, like, okay, who put that message up? Was the message altered? Why the Spear of Selene if it doesn't exist? what does taking it mean? Especially since the Spear of Selene would probably have been given because Selene seems to like them. It's very intriguing. It's something that like I've been really speculating ever since I saw this episode because to be honest, I hadn't been speculating too much about like the whole Aunt Magica mystery and all this other stuff since we didn't have any new episodes for a while, but this really ignited my mystery senses were tingling throughout this entire episode. Anyway, Doug, what are your thoughts on the sphere, not spear, the sphere of Selene?
Well, it's very round. It's very translucent.
It's almost like a Remember-All.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I know it's like they built that up, and then it's like, what Spear of Selene? What are you talking about? And it's like, so wait, what? It's like, wow, that was just really frustrating. And now, yeah, my mystery senses are definitely like going haywire because like you have your thoughts thinking, the whole Della Duck and Magica, incident were, connected, but now it's like you're not so sure of that. And another thing that is really weird too is that this is also the first time that we see on screen Donald and Scrooge acknowledging Della.
Oh yeah, because they talk about it a little bit, like in the A plot to connect it to the Spear of Selene subplot. They acknowledge Della. They said Della's not coming back, and someone always gets hurt when people go on adventures.
Yeah, so it's like it just further adds to the frustration. It's like, why won't you say anything more?
Yeah, I was like really blown away. I'm like, wait, so the whole big MacGuffin thing doesn't actually exist? Like, so what the hell was like did Della steal, and how did it result in her missing? Like, and then of course you see Donald's reaction whenever Storkules brings up Della. It's like, what the hell happened to her? Because like when he first mentions it, Donald's all quiet. He looks at the boys, and Storkules gets it that she's not there anymore. And then when he brings it up again, the fact that Donald is not participating in the games because he doesn't want to go on adventures anymore. He says it's because somebody always gets hurt. And when Storkules brings up Della, Donald reiterates that point really harshly. Somebody always gets hurt. And I'm wondering, like, what does he mean? Della got hurt? Did she die? Did she hurt him by betraying him? Like, what the hell happened? Like,
this is such a good episode in how it not only it goes against any expectations that we had for the episode. It is completely 100% unpredictable on where things are going, but it also adds new mysteries and it gives us more character information. And it's one of those episodes where it continues to make me speculate on things, and I feel like this episode in general brought me back to the first time we heard about the Aunt Magica thing and the first time we heard about the Spear of Selene. This is such a good placement for this episode because we've had a couple episodes that were filler, that weren't tied into the mystery at all. We've had a couple hints, but nothing major since like the Aunt Magica reveal and the whole stuff where they introduced the Spear of Selene. So we've gotten to the point where we've stopped immediately thinking about it, and all of a sudden they drop this huge bombshell that everything that we've been speculating, thinking about, is completely wrong, or could be completely wrong. And I'm like, this is some Gravity Falls level shit. Like, this is where we should have been earlier, and I'm loving it because it clearly shows planning on the writer's part. They clearly knew how they wanted to pace the episodes, and regardless of how they were aired by Disney, if you watch them in the original order, it like this the way they built this mystery and then they brought it to this point, I'm like, kudos, because you guys did such a fantastic job of keeping the tension, releasing it, and then changing everything. And that's such a very hard thing to do, especially with mysteries. Is there anything you want to add to the B plot, Doug?
I thought it was very sweet at the end when, Dewey is that Selene confirms that his mother is really a good person, and he gives her a big hug, and then he like grabs Webby and includes her in the hug. I thought that was really sweet.
That was. It's like you saw like how grateful he was to both of them for like alleviating his fears. Like, it's like it almost made me cry. It's like, yeah, for like honestly, like I've been theorizing too about, what could have happened with the Spear of Selene, because obviously it was a thing, or at least everybody thought it was a thing, because Donald and Scrooge mentioned it in the first episode. So, obviously they thought it was a thing. My belief is that Della, she, having been friends with Selene, realized that it wasn't an artifact of hers and went to investigate it, discovered something really bad about it, and realized that she had to get it away from her family at all costs, otherwise they'd be in danger. And somehow that led to her disappearance. Like, that's my best guess on what happened with this. And now that Dewey has the Sphere of Selene, which I guess projects memories or things from the past, like it's not really clear, maybe he's going to get more clues about what happened to her. Because, I mean, there was like a brief scene where they showed Della fighting I guess it was a monster or something, as she was defending Donald, which kind of ties into what, Donald said about, somebody always being hurt. That, I mean, it's just, it's random theories running through my head, but, I mean, that's the best logical one that I could come up with.
The only other one I can think of is if Magica put this there, like, put a fake artifact, and Della knew that there was no Spear of Selene, so she went to investigate, and something happened with Magica, but there's not enough information to go on, and my speculation is going wild at this point, because I'm just like, but wait a second, there is no Spear of Selene. Like, that one sequence, I'm just like, I don't even know anymore. Like, I love this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to assume it was obviously spear-shaped, as to who owned it or what it actually was. I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Well, I think now is a good time to give our final thoughts on the episode, because as much speculation as we could give, like we don't know. We don't even know. Doug, what are your final thoughts on the Spear, the mistitled episode, The Spear of Selene?
I have so many questions. It was a really good episode, but God, that just frustrated me, and it's like, I need more, need to find out what's going on next. But yeah, definitely really good character episode. Gets a little overblown, I think, with the gods, but, it still works.
I think what works about it is that it doesn't make the Spear of Selene the major focus, and it keeps them going into different antechambers, into different rooms, to kind of keep you guessing the entire time. There's a lot of the episode where I was wondering if they were even going to get to the spear, and I think they did a good job of keeping that mystery going.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it was a nice build-up, even though I mean, we still got a payoff, even if we didn't actually, like, see the spear or find out exactly, like, what it was or who has it. But I don't know. I mean, I'm still satisfied with the episode nonetheless. Though, it would have been nice just to, like, at least see a glimpse of what it looks like. But yeah, my opinion on the episode, like I said, I love this episode. I just love the intrigue. I love how they throw this like curveball at you that, oh yeah, the whole thing that ties into the mystery, yeah, it doesn't exist. It's something completely different. It's like, well, shit. Now I got to revise all my theories. But I mean, it's fun though. It adds a lot of fun to like this mystery solving process. And of course, I like the other part of the episodes with them entering the games, fighting at Storkules, and Zeus just throwing his tantrums, and just all the tomfoolery that goes on between them. By the way, can I say like how funny that siren was? it's like I had the feeling it was gonna turn out to be a siren, even though that's not what sirens look like, but whatever. And then of course, to have her sound completely different than how she sings that was brilliant.
They gave her like a smoker's voice. Overall, I think this was a fantastic episode. This was an episode that really got me intrigued to continue watching this show. And while I still was going to continue to watch the show regardless, several of the filler episodes in between were either not my cup of tea or just kind of like they were good, not my favorites. But then we get back to the main mystery and I'm just like, oh my god, I need to know. I think the best way to put it on how I've been feeling about this is the same way I kind of felt with the episode The Love God in Gravity Falls, where like when that episode hit, like I didn't really care for it that much, and I've gotten a little bit less harsh on it as time has passed. It just because like it took away from the main intrigue and the mystery at the time. And at that point in the show, like, the mystery was going strong in season 2. So it was like, that's why I didn't really care for it. And I could kind of say the same thing for some of the episodes that we didn't particularly care for. I think I was maybe a little too harsh on. I still don't think they're great episodes. I don't think the Mummies of Thoth Ra is anything to really write home about. I know you left your distaste in the dislikes on the episode or whatever. That's fine. You're free to like or dislike whatever. But this, for me, was a return to form for what I wanted for the series. And the fact that we get at least an acknowledgement of the mystery is something that I wanted. Regardless of whether or not we get closure, I just wanted to get some knowledge about what the mystery was, and I was just satisfied that like everything that I speculated was wrong, because like that huge curveball was just like, nope, nope, you guys are wrong, and it was something that I couldn't predict, and that's something that is very rare in television today. Like a lot of mysteries, like it's who you think it is, or it might be a red herring that's not really red herring, or it could actually be red herring in the case of a pup named Scooby-Doo. But it's a thing where things are becoming very predictable in kids shows these days, and for me to not be able to predict where this was going from the start to the finish, kudos to you.
Bravo. Golf clap.
Bellissimo.
And then, of course, next episode's going to be a big one, too, because we get Gizmo Duck!
Yeah!
Yay!
Now, the next episode, that's going to be, is that airing the same time, like the same day?
I believe so. The same time next week.
Yeah, they're airing on Fridays.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Friday. So by the time we release this episode, the new episode will be out.
Mm-hmm. And then it'll be the debut of Lin-Manuel Miranda. Am I saying his name right? I hope. Yes,
Yeah,
I did.
Lin-Manuel Miranda, also known as the Hamilton guy or the Moana guy, the song guy.
Yeah, he's gonna be
The rapper.
Yeah, he's gonna play Fenton Crackshell Cabrera. I'm pretty sure that wasn't his name in the original, but whatever. It's Gizmo Duck! And apparently Mark Beeks is coming back too. So
Wait,
this
he
should
survived?
Yep, Mark Beeks comes back, Gyro comes back. We're gonna have a smorgasbord of sciencey guys on our hand. This should be interesting.
This is gonna be interesting because, like, I knew like Mark Beeks would probably still be alive, but I didn't think he would come back. I thought he was a one-shot character.
Well, they keep showing him in the opening, so I doubt they would like just stick him in there if he was just one shot.
Yeah, true. So I'm interested to see what's going on, especially since now we have introduction of Darkwing Duck characters, which this is another plot point that we haven't seen for a long time, because at the end, Gyro was, getting ready for Gizmo Duck, but we hadn't had any closure to that. Like, we have 3 or 4 different mysteries, and so far the only ones that we followed up on in the previous season were the Aunt Magica twist and the Spear of Selene a little bit. Now we finally get a little bit more with the Spear of Selene, and now finally Gizmo Duck in the Gyro stuff is actually building to something. And I'm like, I kind of wish this was a little bit sooner, because like this was like an early episode where we had the blathering Blatherskite stuff, and we haven't heard of it for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair though, it wasn't like the most prominent mystery, and anybody who watched the original series knew it was coming. So, it's not like it was will it or won't it, or what directions it's going in. It's like, we knew Gizmo Duck was coming. You can't do a reboot of DuckTales without Gizmo Duck. Come on.
That is true. All right, I think this is a good time to end the episode, because as much as we like to speculate and talk about what's going to happen, we're probably wrong. We're probably not going to get it right.
This video is probably already dated by the time it comes out, so yeah.
Hey, I do the best I can. It's been a hectic month. It has been a hectic month. I'm surprised that we got this out what we did, but we're gonna be getting back on those DuckTales episodes, and the Disney debate is gonna go back on track. We gotta finish that 101 Dalmatian marathon, damn it. But yeah. So with all that being said, I'm Zenith Rule.
I'm Kat Macberrie.
And I'm Red Herring. I'm Doug Macberrie.
And
Duck Macberrie.
Duck Macberrie. Quack. Well, welcome to the Duck Dynasty.
Oh God.
But anyway, we will see you guys next time as we talk about Gizmo Duck and all this other stuff going on. I'm really intrigued to see more, and I'm hoping it's a few more than just like 2 or 3 episodes. I'm hoping we get quite a bit, but if not, we'll see you guys next time. Have a good one, guys.
TTFN, ta-ta for now.
And always remember, the difference between a spear and a sphere is very big. One is round and one is pointy.
Hey, this is Megami33. Thank you for watching Zenith Will Review. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more awesome videos. If you like what you see, check out the Patreon page at patreon.com/ZenithWillReview.